Hey guys, this is Rohit and you are watching Kanakupillai.com YouTube channel. If you take any businessman, in fact every businessman is doing his business by mapping his business with entity. No businessman can do his business without mapping his business with entity. If you take Mr. Ratan Tata, he is doing plenty of business. One of his business is car manufacturing, which is Tata Motors, that is mapped with public limited entity. If you take Mr. Mukesh Ambani, he is also doing plenty of business. One of his business is telecommunication, which is Jio, that is mapped with private limited entity. This public and private limited entity is one of the most popular type of entity, and there are a lot more types of entity which is unpopular. For example, one person company, shortly we call it as OPC, limited liability partnership, shortly we call it as LLP, partnership firm and sole proprietorship. If I want to start a business, I need to map my business with entity. And what if I map my business with sole proprietorship entity? What are the nature, what are all the advantages, what are all the disadvantages? Everything we are going to explore in detail with practical perspective. So let's get started. Since there is no separate body to monitor sole proprietorship entity, there is no legal formalities required. If I want to start a sole proprietorship entity, I don't have to wait for an approval from the government. I can start my business right away. Now, I'm going to a bank and requesting current account. The bank is asking me proof of business. Since I'm a sole proprietor and I don't have any legal formality, in that case, what should I submit as proof of business? First of all, we have to understand only my entity have no legal formality, but my business may have legal formality. For example, if I want to start a restaurant, FESI certificate is mandatory. Without FESI certificate, we cannot run a restaurant. I need to apply and get the FESI certificate, and also I can use this FESI certificate as my proof of business and submit in bank and get the current account. Or if I want to start a retail shop business, I need to register under Shop and Establishment Act, and also I can use that registration as my proof of business. MSME and GST registration also can be used as the proof of business. After getting the current account, I need to file income tax return every year. If I come under tax audit, TDS provision apply for me. If I am a service provider, my turnover exceeds 20 lakhs, I need to register GST, I will come under GST law. If I am dealing with goods, my turnover exceeds 40 lakh, I need to register GST, I will come under GST law. Now, let's talk about the advantages of sole proprietorship entity. Quick decision making. Since we are the only one person, we don't have to wait for an approval. We can immediately implement our ideas. 100% profit. Since we are the only one person, there is no concept of profit sharing. Business profit 100% belong to us. Maintaining secrecy. Since we are the only one person, we can easily maintain our trade secret and confidential information. Now let's talk about the disadvantages of sole proprietorship entity. No separate legal entity. For example, if you take Jio have separate PAN and TAN, and Mukesh Ambani have separate PAN and TAN. Jio can own a property. This is what we call it as separate legal entity. In our case, my PAN and TAN is business PAN and TAN, and my property is business property. This leads to unlimited liability, and that is our second disadvantage, unlimited liability. Jio's liability is not Mukesh Ambani's liability. Mukesh Ambani's liability towards Jio is restricted to certain level, but in our case, business liability is completely my liability, and I need to sell my personal property to meet my business liability if required. The third disadvantage is the growth will be restricted or limited at certain level. I hope you got some information about sole proprietorship entity. If you have any doubt, feel free to contact us. We are from Kanakupillai.com, your virtual accountant. See you on the next video with another interesting content. Until then, stay tuned to Kanakupillai.com.